Okay, Peyton, what's up? Turn this light on a little bit. Baby's sleeping. Well, the one baby's sleeping. The other baby's with mama. They went to the doctor. He's super jaundiced. Like, I don't know if you know what that means, but he's really yellow and it's pretty bad. So he got to try and figure out a way to combat this and get him healthy because it can be kind of serious if it's bad. So prayerfully, he'll be okay. But you, since I have a couple minutes, are my priority right now. I told you from the beginning, just my commitment level to you. And since we talked, a lot has gone down. I've been in the hospital, had a baby, and I'm still here. I'm still grinding, and so are you. I just want to give you some just mega props. Obviously, you spent time watching my last video. I appreciate that because I did my best to throw that together in the hospital room, and you use those strategies. Like I said, I shot you a text earlier today that said, "Hey, the first time you did 30 questions on your own, you missed close to 10 of them. This time you missed two. So that's phenomenal. That means you're missing one question every 15. You can, if you do that on the ACT, you're going to have a phenomenal score. So what I want to do before we kind of go over just the main portion of this lesson, which is new, it's going to be on time management, is I really just want to do a quick recap of what you did for the English section, the grammar section, right? So remember, I think the first strategy, basically, and just really want to recap this because you did so well with it. And I want to carry this momentum into the test. So don't be afraid to pick no change, right? That was the first thing, which is very important. Number two is always using that process of elimination. Okay, on the day of the test, you definitely want to be marking off bad answer choices. Just always crossing stuff out. Like that, no way, couldn't be that. That one doesn't make sense. Always get it down to at least two choices. Okay, three, and this is a big one that I think helped you out a lot, is just simple is best. Simple is best. So remember, if we ever get it down to two answer choices, if you're like between B or you're between C and you don't know which one, remember, we like to pick the answer choice that's really concise, short, and to the point. We don't want those wordy kind of academic sounding language for this section. And I think that you really used that well this past test that I gave you, and you increase your score a bunch. Okay, number four, we're always looking for consistency. Okay, we're looking for consistency in tense, right? Past, present, future. We're looking for consistency in like singular versus plural, right? Are we in the singular? Are we in the plural? Because they're going to try and manipulate and change that on you. Lists, right? Just remember, if you have answer choices, we want them to end in the same thing. So maybe you have ION and ION, like construction and division or something, but that's just an example. Like be mindful that we really want consistency in the way the words are written. We don't want to have like an ION and an ING, right? There's always going to be a consistency in the way that words are presented. Okay, and the last thing is consistency in comparisons. So just be mindful of that. You won't see this one that often, but consistency in comparisons, like if you're going to compare the color of something to the color of something else. I actually think this next portion helped you out a ton, which was just the punctuations, right? That punctuation part of the lesson, you missed some of those. So remember, with the comma, right, we always have the fanboys after the but or, like for and nor but or yet so. Those all come after the comma. Okay, the next one was the semicolon. And for the semicolon, we always have a complete sentence before and a complete sentence after, and we have no fanboy there, right? There's no for and nor but or yet so right there. Okay, the colon, right? We have the complete sentence here and we have the incomplete sentence after, right? It's always going to be like that. Or you may have, after a colon, you may have some lists, like a list of something. Okay, and the last thing is the dash. And remember, we have that double dash. Okay, there's that piece of information in between the double dash that's not necessarily like important. Okay, you could actually cover it up with your finger and just read the sentence from front to back without this in the middle. And if it reads perfectly, it's correct. Remember, you could have the same thing with the double comma as well. Okay. Last but not least, we did effect versus effect, but the other one that I really got you, I think, on the test were those transition words, I called them. And what do I mean by transition words? I mean like consequently or despite, therefore, all those, like, are we talking about a contrast? Are we talking about like, so you always just need it there, yeah, like, therefore, just those type of words. Be mindful, like, is this being used in context correctly? Okay, so let's get into time management. Okay, and this is probably this is the biggest thing that's going to help your score, is time management, man. And let's move this over. What did I do? There we go. Okay, so when we're dealing with time management, I want to kind of show you how to attack this test. Okay, now this was the grammar section. Remember, we've got the English, we've got the math, we've got the reading, and we've got the science. Okay, and they're all kind of similar in their own right. Okay, the ACT is fast. Okay, it's a fast test, which means, oh, look right here. Although, that's one of our transition words right off the bat. Okay, but the ACT is quicker than the SAT. And even on the SAT, time management is huge. Like, we cannot waste even 2, 3, or 4 seconds of our time on this test because time is everything for us. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this English section. Now, I want you to see something here. Do you see how we have a passage? Passage 1. Now, how many questions are in passage 1 before we get to passage 2? Okay, here's passage 2. So we had 15 questions in passage 1. Okay, 15. What I want you to understand is if you're stuck on a question, or if a question's giving you fits even for like a couple seconds, is that, like, skip it. You totally need to be comfortable skipping questions. Okay, so let's just say, like, the writer deleted sentence 2, the essay would lose details that what? So maybe number 6, because this is kind of a weird question, right? If he added or deleted something, maybe you look at these, right? And you're just like, I don't know what it is. Immediately skip it and go on. Okay, what I do want you to do though for every question is remember, you're always using the process of elimination. So maybe you got rid of F and you didn't know if it was G, H, or J, and you're stuck and you move on. Okay, being comfortable skipping questions is a game changer for your score. Now, let me show you what happens. Once you get all the way down to 15 and you realize that the passage is over, you can't go on to another passage until you come back and answer the question. So maybe you go back now and you're like, ooh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer number 6. Now, what happens usually when you skip a question, especially if you eliminate something, if you skip a question and you come back to it, 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to jump out at you. You're going to read the question. You're going to go down here like, oh, shoot, of course it's H. Okay. Hold on. I got to pick up this phone call. Okay. Sorry. That was my wife calling about the baby. So just what I was getting at, I think, was that we have to be comfortable skipping questions often, especially if we're like stuck on them and we're just like confused. But like I said, when you come back to the question, the answer 9 times out of 10 is really going to jump out of you. It's weird how that happens, but it happens, and it's really a time saver. Okay, so let's say you answer question number 6, and now we can go on to passage number 2. And like I said, you can skip any questions in passage number 2 that you want, as long as you come back to them and answer before you move on to passage number 3. Now look, right off the bat, I'm just showing you, comma, semicolon, comma, those are all things that we went over. Okay, which is great. Like I told you, the strategies that I gave you literally can get you 100%. Okay, if you just know those strategies, you can get 100% on this section. Now, there is one thing that I kind of want to show you that I don't think we touched on, was that when you're going through this section, I like to, okay, do you see how this is underlined right here and this is number 16? Okay, I always like to read one sentence past. Okay, because the ACT is real tricky, and so is the SAT and how they present things. Sometimes that following sentence will give you a hint back to what the answer is. So you can see how we have an however here in the very next word of sentence 2. However is a contrast word, right? So maybe, however, until recently, they've been unable to verify this theory. Maybe that information is very important in helping you answer this previous question. So just know for the English section, right, that grammar section, that, hey, read one sentence past, then come back to it, right? Use all those strategies I gave you, be comfortable skipping questions, and you're going to freaking crush it. I know it. Okay, now let's go on to the next section. How do we want to attack the next section? Now, the next section is the math section. 60 minutes, 60 questions. This sucks, okay? And let me show you why. You only have 1 minute per question, which is a nightmare, okay? 1 minute a question is like ridiculous. And you can see here that they are all multiple choice. 1 through 60, all multiple choice. Okay, now the one thing I kind of want to get through to your brain is this. It's very important that you understand how these questions are laid out. Okay, these questions are laid out like this. Question number 1, all the way to question number 60. And we need to have a plan for the math section if we want to get a good score. If we don't have a plan here, you are going to choke. Okay, not because you personally are bad, it's just because how this test is set up. Now, you got to understand that these questions go from easy to hard. Okay, and we've got medium here in the middle. Okay, so how I like to kind of talk about this to students, and really just like when I'm tutoring, is I like to think of an Easter egg hunt. Okay, and in an Easter egg hunt, when you have like 50 people around you and you're all running to go snatch up eggs, okay, if you see an egg that's like way up in the tree hidden versus a couple eggs laying right in front of you, okay, you're not going to leave the eggs in front of you that are right there just to bend over and pick up to go run up and try and get this like tree or egg that's hidden in the tree. Okay, all these questions are worth the same amount. In my opinion, I like to view this as 60 eggs, okay? Because it's how many eggs can we collect in 60 minutes, okay? The worst thing that kids can do is this. Let me show you. The worst thing somebody can do is I'm going to do number 1, then I'm going to do number 2, then I'm going to do number 3. And look, maybe they get stuck on 3. So they go and they work and they work and they work on number 3 until they get stuck, and then they guess. And then I'm going to go to number 4. And I get number 4, and then I'm going to go to 5, and I work and I work and I work and I get stuck, and then I guess. Okay, the worst thing that you could possibly do is go from 1 to 60 because you're going to run out of time. Okay, you may get 40 questions done in time if you're lucky. Okay, so let me show you how we're going to attack this. I like to attack this math section in waves, right? And I'm a surfer, so I'm using waves as my analogy. So wave 1, we go through and we pick off all the easy questions. So this is wave 1. You're going to go through the entire test, all 60 questions. Hold up, my bride's texting me real quick. I was supposed to order her lunch, and I think I did. I believe so. Yep, I did. Okay, so drop my pencil there. So wave 1, we're going through all 60 questions. And basically you're just glancing at it, and like if it looks easy to you, you're answering it. If you know scientific notation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it's going to be times something to the 6th power or -6, then you know B. That's my answer. Okay? 2, right? You go through 2, and if you can answer it, answer it. If you can't, skip it. 3, if you can answer it, answer it. If you can't, skip it. Okay? And that's really has to be your strategy. Okay, so the thing is we're going to go through, and maybe on wave 1, you answer like only 28 questions. Okay, but what I want you to do when you're going through all 60 questions in wave 1 is I want you to mark the ones that look kind of medium, where you're like, I know I could do that, but it's going to take me a little bit of a time. So I like to write like number 2 on that because I'm telling myself then I'm going to answer it in wave number 2. So if it's easy, you answer it. If you know you can answer, but it's going to take you a little time, I like to mark it number 2. Let me show you. So like this is an absolute value question, and you know, like, man, I'm pretty good at that, but I'm going to skip it for now because I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to come back to it. So you mark it number 2, right? So that way, when you come back through all of these questions, we already did wave 1, you're going back through wave 2, you're going to answer all those questions that have a number 2 on them, and you're going to get those out of the way. Okay, so that's really the strategy there. And then wave 3 are the really, really, really hard questions that you like pretty much can't do. So you're gonna have to go through and kind of guess on them. But the great thing about having this wave going, 1 is all the easy, 2 is all the medium, and 3 is all the hard, is you're never wasting any time on a given question. You're only working on the questions that you know that you can do and you know you can get the answer for. And what happens is wave 3, you go back and you attack all the really hard questions. And if it's like, hey, I'm going to spend some time on this, spend some time on it. If it's like, there's no way in heck I know how to do this, make an educated guess, but you're not going to waste a second of your time. Okay. So really what's going to be happening in the math section is you're going to be skipping a ton of questions. You may skip 10, 20, 30, 40 questions, but then you're going to come back to them and work through them, and you're going to skip some, and you're going to come back and work through them and skip some. And it's just going to be that constant process that you're working and skipping, working and skipping, working and skipping, and you're never just sitting there just focusing on one question and wasting your time. Okay, let's come to the reading section is just like the English section in that we have passages. Okay, so look at how many questions there are for passage 1. There's 10 questions. It's okay for you to skip a question in that passage and come back to it. Like I said, a lot of times the answer is going to jump out at you. You just can't go ahead to passage number 2 before you answer all the questions in passage number 1. Okay. Last but not least is science. I mean, typically I work on kids with the science questions a lot. Like we spend a lot of time tutoring on those. So it's like, I don't want to just try and throw some random strategies at you now without us working. But what I do want to tell you is that you need to take a lot of breaks on this test. So see how we have passage 3 here? Maybe you just finished passage 2. It's so important, okay, that you just take 10 to 15 seconds, close your eyes and breathe between every passage. That goes for the English, the reading, the science, everything. Short little breaks just to give yourself like a chance to rest, meditate, right? And let it happen because you're going to get fatigued if you don't take breaks. Okay. And other than that, bring lots of snacks, drinks. Okay. If you ever get to go outside and take a quick breather, eat, drink. Okay. So you can stay recharged and focused. That's pretty much it. Make sure you text me tonight and let me know after you watch the video. Let me know what you think, and I'll give you some encouragement late night. All right, you got this, P. You're gonna get into UT.